I noticed her during a downtown gallery's autumn exhibition, her silhouette wrapped in emerald silk, dark curls pinned like artful chaos. She stood beside an abstract canvas, sipping rose, eyes indifferent to its brushstrokes. Something magnetic pulled me across the room, my tailored suit suddenly inadequate next to her effortless radiance. "Do you actually like this?" she asked, nodding toward a grotesque swirl of color. I laughed. "I like that you just insulted it in front of the artist." That's how Veronica entered my life. Sharp, fearless, intoxicating. We met again, accidentally or intentionally, I never found out, at a rooftop bar 2 nights later. She wore crimson then. We talked until the sky lost all stars. Her laughter blended with jazz, each note a hook dragging me further into her world. Back then, I was only beginning my climb. A mid-level analyst with long hours, lean pay, and bigger dreams. She didn't ask about money. She asked about obsessions, regrets, books I never finished. I told her things no one else knew. 6 months in, I bought her an opal ring from an antique shop in Prague. She didn't want diamonds, she claimed. "Opals shimmer with secrets," she whispered, and that felt fitting. We married in Florence. Vows written on parchment, spoken beneath cathedral shadows. She cried when I said I'd never let her feel ordinary. I meant it. Our honeymoon blurred into postcards, Santorini sunsets, Moroccan bazaars, Bali rain. She devoured every experience like it might be stolen from her tomorrow. Settling in New York, I accelerated my career. My hedge fund took off after a series of volatile market wins. Overnight, we upgraded from cabs to chauffeurs, cocktails to private labels, apartments to skyline suite. Veronica flourished under luxury's glow. Custom gowns, gallery openings, Italian shoes shipped weekly. She hosted parties where influencers whispered her name like it was currency. I kept pace, or tried. There were nights I returned home to strangers lounging in my living room, musicians, socialites, actors, laughing too loudly, sipping my bourbon. She'd greet me with lipstick-smudged air kisses, barely remembering I worked 14-hour days funding her fairy tales. But I ignored the cracks. She told me she loved me often, whenever she needed something. And in between the hollow affirmations, I tried convincing myself she did. It wasn't all lies. Some nights were real. Candlelit tubs, drunk kitchen dances, long drives with no destination. When it was just us, stripped of status, there was warmth. Yet, something in her gaze always wandered, like she was staring through me toward some richer version of life I couldn't yet provide. I gave her everything I could. But love built on illusion eventually demands reality's price. And mine was coming due. The shift didn't scream. It whispered. First, her gaze started drifting. Not just from me, but from the world we built. She spent longer in front of mirrors, stayed later at functions I didn't attend, took calls in languages I didn't understand. I noticed one morning, waking to the scent of perfume that wasn't hers. Not unpleasant, just unfamiliar. She had slipped out before sunrise, claiming yoga. Her mat never left the closet. I asked no questions. Fear disguised itself as tolerance. Maybe I didn't want answers. Maybe I already knew. By autumn, Veronica's schedule resembled espionage. Private jets, last-minute trips, photographs appeared on her Instagram, never revealing company, always obscuring reflections. She kissed me goodbye with lips too practiced. I returned those gestures like a man auditioning for his own marriage. Suspicion finally bloomed into resolve the night I saw her laughing over dinner with a stranger. From a restaurant balcony, I watched her touch his wrist, lean in, whisper something that made him blush. The same script she once performed for me. I contacted Ethan, a former police detective turned private eye. Discreet, brutal, efficient. He delivered proof within days. Photos, videos, hotel receipts, a new name, Luca Belmonte. European. Charitable on the surface, but known for latching onto wealthy patrons. He wasn't stealing her money. He was savoring mine. Dubai. Tulum. St. Barth. Their trail read like an erotic travel brochure. I confronted her on a Sunday, sunlight doused across our penthouse kitchen. She wore silk shorts, legs crossed, sipping imported espresso. Calm. Beautiful. Untouchable. I know about Luca. Her eyes didn't flinch. You're spying on me now? You gave me reason. She chuckled softly, as if the betrayal bored her. We haven't been us in years. I've been here. I never left. Exactly, she said, voice flat. You stayed. I evolved. Her indifference cut deeper than the affair. She didn't even try to lie. Didn't bother to cry. She simply removed herself from the role of wife mid-sentence. I couldn't yell. Wouldn't beg. She wasn't mine to plead with anymore. That night, I poured myself 12 fingers of scotch and opened my laptop. While she slept in another room, I catalogued every asset, every shadow investment, every backdoor trust. I consulted lawyers, built walls inside walls, cloaked every dollar under layers of legality she could never peel back. She didn't notice. She was busy posting sunsets she didn't earn, holding hands with someone who didn't know her laugh was rehearsed. Eventually, we agreed on divorce through silence. No screaming matches. No broken glass. Just two people passing in hallways, strangers in shared square footage, counting down to detonation. She believed she had won. That her seduction had cost me everything. But she never saw the calculations behind my grief. Never noticed me documenting, detaching, disappearing, all while smiling at her friends like nothing had changed. And that, I think, is what betrayal truly looks like. Two people pretending one still cares while the other quietly prepares for war. Aspen breathed different air, crisp, uncaring, clean. I wasn't invited for snowboarding or skiing. It was a retreat, masked as finance networking, but really a parade of power, billionaires pretending to relax, millionaires trying to matter. I brought a smile, wore Armani, shook hands, and tried forgetting Veronica's perfume still lingered on my sheet. That's when I met Liliana. She didn't walk into the room. She entered, like thunder, silk, and sin. Eyes the color of wet ash. Skin bronzed like summer never left her. Her dress shimmered as though stitched from desire. She sipped mezcal like it was blood and stared through me as if dissecting my secret. You don't belong here, she said before I even spoke. I raised a brow. Where do I belong then? She leaned closer. Somewhere darker. Liliana wasn't a guest. She was a feature, invited by no one, welcomed by everyone. Rumors danced around her like smoke. Some claimed she once robbed an heiress blind at a yacht gala, then auctioned the stolen art back to her anonymously. Others whispered about blackmail, offshore galleries, pieces never seen again. I didn't care. That night, in front of a fireplace the size of a Manhattan apartment, we drank, flirted, sparred. Her wit was a knife. My interest, a flame. She asked nothing about my marriage, and I offered no confessions. She wasn't a sanctuary. She was a storm. At midnight, she led me outside barefoot through snow. We kissed beneath a tree heavy with ice. Cold bit at my skin. Her lips burned. We didn't go back inside. We didn't need a bed. The next morning, I woke up sore, wild, human. With Veronica, sex had become scripted, moaned gratitude, designer lingerie peeled like wrapping paper. With Liliana it was chaos. We broke lamps, shattered glasses, laughed while bruising each other. She made me the object. It didn't stop after Aspen. We rendezvoused wherever shadows lived, abandoned clubs in Berlin, moonlit rooftops in Sao Paulo, locked archives in Paris museums. We devoured each other with reckless hunger. She'd send coordinates. I'd show up. No words. Just bruises and breath. She never asked about feelings. She didn't pretend to love me. She wasn't there for comfort, she was escape. And I fell. Hard. Not for romance, but for the honesty. With Liliana, I wasn't performing. I wasn't Veronica's husband or Wall Street's wunderkind. I was just flesh, ego, and impulse. But beneath the lust, something else stirred. Something darker. I began skipping meetings, canceling clients, making reckless decisions. The thrill turned dangerous. She once asked me to help fence a painting worth millions. I refused. She vanished for a week. When she reappeared, she looked at me differently. "Don't pretend you're clean," she said. "You love dirt. You just like wearing gloves." She was right. With Veronica, I'd been the savior. With Liliana, I was the sinner. And in that twisted mirror, I finally saw myself. Rain tapped the courthouse windows like nervous fingers. My suit clung tighter than usual, not from nerves. Those had burned out months ago, but from the weight of closure finally arriving. The hall smelled of paper, dust, and judgment. I sat still, calm, prepared. Veronica entered late. She floated in like Victory wore heels. Black stiletto Louboutins, a matching silk blouse, hair pinned back like she was starring in her own courtroom drama. Her lipstick screamed confidence. That laugh, low, mocking, venomous, escaped the moment her eyes found mine. "You look thinner," she said, sliding into her seat. "Lawsuits do wonders for appetite," I replied, expression flat. Her lawyer, Darian Hayes, radiated Ivy League arrogance. Crisp suit, gelled hair, smirk sharpened for performance. He opened with demands: alimony, property, stocks, a fair division of post-nuptial earnings. His voice was smooth, but his greed was loud. Veronica smiled like she'd already spent the money. They thought they knew everything. But they didn't know about Ruth, my attorney. Quiet, sharp, surgical. She waited until Darian finished his entitled monologue before sliding a manila folder across the polished table toward the judge. Inside, every trust, every company, every LLC that owned other LLCs. The truth laid out in cold, bulletproof clarity. All post-marriage income protected. Every dollar locked behind prenup clauses, offshore architecture, and clever timing. The judge's brow rose as he flipped pages. Veronica's smile faltered slightly. "According to this," the judge said, adjusting his glasses, "the bulk of Mr. Keene's net worth is legally shielded. Miss Verona Keene waived rights to post-nuptial assets in 2018, signed and notarized." Darian frowned. "This cannot reflect the full scope of holdings." The judge didn't blink. "It reflects what the law recognizes. The prenup is airtight." Veronica leaned forward, laughing that same wicked laugh she always used when mocking waiters or assistants. "He's lying. He's always hiding something. Trust me, I know him." I finally spoke. "You knew the version of me you manipulated. Not the one that prepared for this day." Her voice cracked. "So this is punishment?" "No," I said, leaning forward. "This is prevention." The laughter vanished. Her nails drummed the table. She looked at Darian. He looked helpless. "You cheated," she hissed. I smirked. "So did you. You just did it poorly." Silence swelled between us like fog. Her certainty collapsed under the weight of a reality she hadn't anticipated. I had learned. I had adapted. I'd stopped trying to win her back and started playing defense. The judge continued, outlining basic settlement terms. Minimal. Fair by legal standards, cruel by Veronica's. She signed the papers with theatrical flair, eyes locked on mine, lips curled in disdain. "This isn't over," she muttered. "It already is," I replied. As we exited the courtroom, flashbulbs popped, paparazzi hoping for scandal. Veronica posed, smiling faintly. I walked past them without pause, invisible in her shadow. But I didn't care about headlines anymore. The war was over. She lost. And she didn't even realize it until the numbers were read aloud. Freedom didn't arrive with fanfare. It arrived in quiet. No champagne. No victory lap. Just silence in a penthouse now echoing with vacancy. Veronica left more than clothes behind. She left traces. Her perfume lingered on velvet chairs. Half-read poetry books on our shelves. A wine glass with lipstick still dry on the rim. I walked through our once shared space like a ghost revisiting someone else's life. The media tried to spin it. Tabloids invented mistresses, betrayals, offshore mistreatment. She played the martyr. I didn't correct her. Let her stage crumble slowly without my interference. Liliana? She disappeared without a word. One night, after finalizing the asset distribution, I returned home to find a painting gone, the one we picked in Prague. No note. No explanation. Just the empty hook and a glass of Armagnac waiting by the window. She'd taken nothing else. Just that. I smiled. Weeks passed. Then months. I buried myself in work, building new firms, launching a venture incubator, expanding quietly. I stopped wearing watches that cost more than cars. Stopped dining with people who measured value in wine labels. Simplicity became seductive. I dated. Briefly. Cautiously. Nobody stayed. Trust had become currency I couldn't afford. Every woman reminded me of someone. An inflection. A touch. A look that made me flinch. One night I saw Veronica again, by chance, at a charity gala. She was wearing a backless dress, sipping something golden, surrounded by admirers pretending to be friends. Her eyes met mine. I nodded. She smiled. No anger. No longing. Just two actors who'd burned their stage to the ground and walked away before the curtain could fall. She approached. No entourage. Just her and that same perfume. You look good, she said softly. You look expensive. She laughed. Genuinely this time. You always did know how to break past the gloss. Did you love me? I asked. Her eyes flicked downward, as if searching for truth in her champagne. I loved the version of you that needed me. The moment you didn't, I didn't know what to do with that man. Honest. Brutal. Almost admirable. What about Luca? I asked. She shook her head. Temporary pleasure. Expensive mistake. He moved on before I did. I almost said I was sorry. But I wasn't. We talked for a few more minutes. Weather, art, nothing meaningful, and parted without ceremony. The past no longer had claws. Outside, the city lights flickered like stars trying to survive daylight. I hailed a car, sank into leather seats, watched towers pass like monuments to former selves. I didn't feel broken. I felt stripped, like the ruin of something beautiful that needed to burn. And sometimes, fire is just the beginning. There's a clarity that only comes after you lose everything you once begged to keep. I stopped craving applause. No more proving anything to anyone. My mornings began in silence. Coffee brewed by my own hands, shirts wrinkled, hair messy, mind still. 1 year passed since the courthouse. 12 months of disassembling the man I used to be. The world remembered Veronica's name for a while. A few interviews. Rumors of a modeling comeback. Sponsored skincare. Then, nothing. Fame has a half-life. Lust, even less. But I wasn't watching. I was building. My new firm didn't scream success. It whispered influence. We funded creators. Misfits. Ex-convicts with patents. Mathematicians who couldn't code. Artists no one understood. I hired those who'd never get past a resume screen. Profit followed, but quietly. I made money while staying invisible. No headlines. No gossip. No watch list. Then one morning Ruth, my old lawyer, sent an email. Subject: Veronica's lawsuit. Yes, really. She'd filed a claim. Emotional damages, mental cruelty, post-nuptial sabotage. A Hail Mary play. A last grab from someone who'd spent everything but pride. I didn't panic. Instead, I flew to Tulum. Not to hide, but to breathe. And there, beneath a rusted tin roof cafe, sipping black tea laced with cinnamon, I saw her again. Liliana. She wore no makeup. A linen shirt torn at the collar. Sand on her ankles. Eyes still sharp as ever. You're late, she said, sliding into the chair beside me. I laughed. I didn't know I was invited. You're always invited when you're finally honest. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. She lit a cigarette, handed me one. I declined. She smirked. Old habits die performing. What happened to you? She asked. I stopped being who she needed. She nodded. That's usually when we become someone better. We walked the beach that night. No promises. No planning. Just quiet conversation and fingers brushing against possibility. When I returned to the city, I met Veronica's legal team with the same weapon I used in the beginning: documentation. Emails. Voice recordings. Statements. Her betrayal wasn't just marital, it was malicious. She walked away not only without compensation, but with a countersuit settlement and a lifetime NDA. She cried this time. Not because she lost money. Because she finally realized she had never mattered to anyone but herself. Now, I live quieter. A lake house in Vermont. A book half finished. A woman who may never belong to me, but shares her presence without pretense. Some nights, I replay the courtroom moment. The exact second the judge read my worth out loud. Not for vanity. For validation. Because she laughed when she thought she'd won. But it was my silence that delivered the final blow. Love didn't ruin me. Lust didn't define me. Betrayal didn't end me. It built the man writing this. And he doesn't lose.